just, I'll just move over here and then we'll just have a discussion session for a short period, if that's okay.
Do you have any files for the discussion? Do you have further files? Or
Yeah, it's just the final talk, yeah.
Okay.
But I think I might not... Is it all right if I just ask the questions out loud? Because I think it's just quicker than using electronic. Is that all right?
Yeah, okay.
Do you mind?
I think we can do both. Okay. If you ask the questions and we can...
Okay, we'll try this electronically, but if not, we might use the old visual display of putting your hands in the air. I'd just like to know from the audience, and if you have all logged on to the voting system, that would be really helpful. I'd like to know from the audience, first of all, do you have in your country, do you have or in your department, a formal programme of internal clinical audit in your department? So if you could just use the voting system now to vote yes if you have, B if you don't have a formal system, and C if you don't know. So if you could just vote now. We're going to just try the first questions experiment, then I might, if we've only got 16 people voting as far as I understand it, I think we may use a visual display. Okay? So I'm going to change the system if you don't mind. If we could have the lights up a bit, could we?
Maybe we should just,
I'm just going to
show the slide with the info.
Okay, that's it. Is it?
Again.
No, I think we'll just go for this because I've got limited time to do it. It's okay. Okay. So can you just put your hands up? How many people have a formal programme of internal clinical audit in their department? And can people from the UK put their hands down? So just keep your hands up. Keep your hands up if you have got a clinical audit formal system. Thanks very much. Could someone just shout out some of the countries that's in if they're willing to do it? This gentleman here. Where's your formal system? Holland. So the Netherlands again. Okay, fine. So it looks like internal clinical audit is still not a widespread tool throughout Europe. That's what I think we're understanding. So there's a long way to go on that. More about probably what we were hearing towards the last presentation, really, a formal process of external audit or radiation protection in your department. How many people have a formal process of external audit of their radiation protection procedures in their department? Put your hands up now if you do have one. You can put them up much bolder than that if you'd like. Could you put your hands up if you don't? Okay, so I assume the rest of you either don't know or haven't got any hands. Okay, so it looks like still there's a lot of departments out there that don't have a formal system of external accreditation of radiation. Okay, do you have a regular systematic audits of justification? In other words, in your department, do you have a system in place that justifies the requesting of diagnostic procedures? Hands up if you do have a procedure that you regularly justify. Hands up if you don't have a procedure that you regularly justify. So again, it looks like we have a long way to go on justification as a tool for trying to reduce the burden of radiation. The next one is, do you have a regular or systematic audits of dose optimization for plain films? In other words, in your department, are you regularly auditing the radiography aspects of acquisition of plain films? Hands up if you do. Hands up if you don't have that in place. There's no one's photographing you, so don't worry about that. It's just an honesty vote here. Okay. A lot of don't knows, I imply, if there are people who haven't put their hands up or have arthritis in their shoulders. Okay. The last question then, I think, or one of the last questions, do you have regular systematic audits of dose optimization for CT? Because obviously this is the area we really want to be clear about. Do you have it? Hands up if you do. Be honest. Hands up if you don't. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. I mean, that's it. I'm going to ask the three panelists one question, then hands up, please, if if you would have any questions to ask them. The one question I want to ask the three panellists is, what is the biggest challenge that you have seen to the work that you have been doing in your three countries? You may have to shout out, but if
okay,
just...
I can use my voice, I think. The biggest challenge is that when radiography departments were having a clinical audit, that everyone involved knew the results. And that is really a challenge, and we now send, with a digital audit system, everyone the report. So they have to know, and they have to make an improvement plan. Because 10 years ago, when there was an external clinical audit, and we asked a radiologist or a radiographer 5 weeks after the clinical audit what was the result, they didn't know or they didn't read the result. So that was really everyone involved in the department should be aware of results and how to improve.
Thank you.
What I have seen, I think we already have the internal system quite well. People are doing internal audits, but they don't use the results and the impact of the audits on practice. I think that's the main challenge at this point in Finland.
Sue.
Well, I think in the UK it's slightly different with regard to radiation dose because we have IRMA, which is the ionising radiation medical exposure regulations, which came out of the Euratom Directive. So in our country it is law to justify examinations and to keep dose down. But the difficulty in getting people engaged with audit is just that. You know, we've given them all these fabulous tools, we've given them Audit Live, and it's actually getting them, oh, you know, we're too busy to do this, you know, we're busy being clinical radiologists, you know, but, and it's getting them to realise that looking at what you do and saying, how can we make this better? Because the end result is it's going to be better for the patient. That's the message we need to get across.
Thanks, Sue. Now, questions from the audience. Anybody want to put their hands up and ask a particular question of the three panellists? One question here.
I would like to ask about practice in your country, in UK. How do the clinics and departments choose ideas what to audit? You had a big list and advice how to do it, but can they choose themselves whatever they want to audit?
So for those at the back who may not have heard the question was, how does an individual department in the UK decide on what topics they audit on? Is it a sort of internal decision, or do they have to sort of pick from the list? I think that's the kind of question.
I mean, it's very much a local decision, and those ideas, those recipes are there to guide them. The national audits, we at the college choose, and the national audits are usually based on some hot topic that's emerging. You know, that a little while ago there was a publication about CT in children that came out of Australia that said that the dose from CT in children was dangerous. And so, you know, that for example, would be a good topic for a national audit because it's topical. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing in the UK. But in terms of local audit and personal audit, it's very much down to you as an individual to look at your performance and say, okay, I think I'm okay here, but am I really, and what's the evidence? So it's entirely up to you. And the recipes are there, they're very simple, so that you can start small and build on that. So I'm a great believer in life in keeping things simple. And if it's easy and simple and it doesn't involve too much time going through case notes, etc., people will do it.
Thanks, Sue. Other questions from the audience? Another question?
When you go into an audit in the department, if you found something terrible, is there a way to feed back to the inspectors, or is it down to the site to do something about it?
So the question is, from the Finnish experience, if you find something terrible in doing the external audit, what is the feedback process out with that department?
unit, not for anyone else. But if there's something really terrible, we have our ways. We haven't faced that yet.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience at all? One more back here.
I think in theory, there is, it's the law in most European countries to do some form of clinical audit. But in practice, if there is no sanction, if there is no fee you have to pay if you don't do it. If you are within a busy department and audit is only for those interested. But people are interested in getting images, not to audit how it is in Finland or in the Netherlands.
Thank you. Anyone want to respond to that? It was more of a statement.
Well,
Susan.
from my professional point of view, I should say it's also fun to do audits. It's good to have real feedback, doing audits, and improve yourself constantly. So when it's obligatory, I think you get an audit in a way of it must, or people turn at you like this if you don't do it. And it should be a professional attitude to do audits to improve yourself and your practice in patient care. So if that culture is running, and I know that time burden is very an issue in hospitals, but if we do it on a regular base with small audits, because you can start small. It doesn't take a lot of amount of time if everyone takes a bit or do a part. So in my point of view, it should be a culture and a professional attitude. So.
Thank you. Any other questions at all from the audience?
Peter,
I'm a
member of the Audit and Standards Subcommittee with Peter. I have a curiosity. In this all, I would like to say to know how many people come from South Europe. I mean, Italy, Spain, and Greece. No one. Turkey.
Thank you.
Because it seems to be a problem not only, especially from South Europe. So I think that probably we have, like our subcommittee, must work more on South Italy than on Northern Italy. That it probably is a problem of Northern Europe, but especially from South Europe.
It's the cold weather. Yeah. We have to do something in all those cold months. I think in that case, I'd just like to sum up. First of all, I'd really like to thank the three speakers for giving of their time and three excellent presentations. I'd just like to thank them again in the usual way. Secondly, a little commercial break. I'd like you to be aware that we will be publishing something on the ESR website soon, which will be a web-based tool to help you in carrying out clinical audit. We hope to have that in place, very much like Audit Live, but it will actually, I suspect, be directing people to sites like Audit Live and other similar sites from people who know what they're doing. And finally, my observations of what I've just heard from all three presentations, although they came at it from three different ways, I think the one thing they all showed is that this is a tool for improvement. It's not necessarily a tool for judgment. It's about a tool for wanting to improve your services to your patients. I think the other thing was it's a way of driving team working within your department together, that multidisciplinary way of working, which is not only valuable to patient care, but makes your jobs more valuable and more enjoyable. And the third one that I had down was that it's a peer review tool, really. It's about us as a community doing this work and not others doing it to us. And one interesting point, I think, which was from Sija's talk, was that we worry in radiology about losing that connection with patients. And the model she was telling us about the mirror work, which I thought was fascinating, this kind of work brings us back closer to the patients that we serve. So I think there's lots of key messages in there, and I'd just like to thank the three speakers again for reminding us, and thank you for coming and listening. Thank you very much indeed.